Now this pile is just growing and growing. Guten Yardening, everybody! Well, today is the day I put it all together. I've been putting together footage from our community garden plot that we introduced earlier this summer, and I've been keeping it to ourselves so that we could then show you sort of a progression over time as the plot developed, and now as we're ready to come out here today and harvest our winter squash. Now before I do that, I do want to remind you that the plot we're growing in cost us $20 for an entire growing season, and even though we got a late start to the growing season, we were still able to come out here and put in some tomatoes and a lot of this winter squash, and we've already been harvesting some of the tomatoes, so now it's time to come and see how these winter squash are doing. But before I show you the winter squash and the harvest, let's take a look through the last couple of months. Well, it's July 28th, and this is just a little check-in out here on our community plot, our community garden plot here. And I got to tell you, our plants are getting huge. So I'll take a closer look here, but our tomatoes, our melon, and our pumpkin, and when I call it pumpkin, I'm talking about winter squash, that type. Well, I think we have some stuff coming in here, but this whole bed is covered now. You can also see, if I look up really closely, there's a ton of weeds in here, so we've got some weeding to do. There's also a lot of purslane, that edible vegetable that I know a lot of people like, the edible weed. Let's take a closer look. Now I pulled back a couple of the weeds from this melon that we have here. This is a sugar baby melon, and up here we've got probably, I don't know, a palm-sized melon coming in. That's nice looking. And on our other melon, let's search along here. Yep, we've got a few small fruits here. That's nice. Oh, there's another one right over here. Take a look right in here. So not quite as far along as that one fruit, but got a bunch happening. And again, one of the things we said we were going to do is just let our pumpkin or winter squash compete with our watermelon, and so far, I mean, you can see how they spread. This is one of the things you got to remember if you're going to grow this winter squash, that they love their space. So when we first started this out, if you looked at the pictures, you'd see that it looked like we had tons of space in here, but we knew, based on how much these spread, that we don't. Well, as I'm searching through here to see if we have any fruits coming in yet, it looks to me like we're still getting mostly male flowers so far. So my speculation is that we'll probably start getting female flowers here in the next couple of weeks as we do our next check-in to see how things are going. But let me see if I can find any fruit at all here. It's kind of fun to watch the jungle develop. You stay away for a couple of days. It's not something we do at our home garden, but clearly the plants are not suffering here from that. The only thing that we really have to worry about now is, again, taking care of those weeds, and there are plenty of those for us to pull. All right, I'm seeing some. There we go. Here's a little female flower. It's going to turn into a fruit, hopefully. We got pollinated. Let's see if there's anything else underneath here. Yep, there we go. I think that's probably the biggest one that we have so far. Yeah, that's the biggest one I see underneath here. Wow. All right, we're going to check back in here in a couple weeks. It is August 19th. I'm out here at the community garden, and we've just sort of let this do its own thing. We've been really busy at home, and well, you can see this hasn't suffered one bit. Now granted, it is nearly impossible to move around in here, and that's one of the reasons why it's a good idea to train your crops as best you can. But what I am seeing in here is a lot of squash production. I'm gonna step carefully in here, but you can see as we look down below, I mean, we've got some really nice sized pumpkin fruit in here, just really hidden along here. And so I think when it comes time to harvest, we have some really nice winter squash in here. This is the Canada crookneck, and they're all through here. So we're gonna have a nice harvest there. And then some of our other squash that we have in here, we get these yellow squash on here, and they're looking great as well. So this one, I think this has 4 or 5 of them. Really nice one here. Now, as far as our tomatoes go, I mean, they have just grown like wildfire, and at home we've been working on keeping them more lean and really taking care of them. But you can see lots of yellow flowers on here and some definite production. Even as the squash, you can see there's another one right there, even as these winter squash move over, and these tomatoes are still making plenty of room for themselves as we go through here. Now I did see one other kind of squash here, and it's down at the other end here. This looks to be our butternut squash. You can see just how big this one's getting. It's a really nice sized squash, and I'm sure there are a few more in here. But what we're gonna do right now is we're just gonna wait a little bit longer. I mean, at this point, I haven't watered this in several weeks, and these plants have grown so much, they don't even really need that. They can do a really good job with their roots absorbing any of the rainfall that we do get. So we'll wait a couple more weeks, we'll come back in, and as these plants start to die back, what we're gonna see is all of that fruit underneath. That is exciting. Well, it is almost the end of September, and we are ready to come out here and harvest our winter squash from our community garden. Now, we've tried to track a little bit of the progress along the way. We haven't actually been out here in a couple of weeks, and so now that I'm out here, I can see that these winter squash are definitely ready to be harvested. So that's what our focus is going to be on today, seeing what exactly we got out of here in terms of that development. So without further ado, let's get harvesting these beautiful winter squash. So you can see that these squash are definitely dying back. The plants themselves are dying back. And I'm going to start right here because we have two of the varieties that we planted in here side by side. And I'm going to talk to you about how I know when a squash is ripe. Now, I would say for both of these squash, I could actually wait a little bit longer, but we do need to get these out of here. This is our Canada crookneck, and you can see the size on this. It's a really large squash. It's a little bit different than the butternut squash, and I've heard some people like it a little bit more. There's our cucumber beetle right there, it looks like. So some people prefer this, and we haven't grown this in the past, but there are a couple of things we're looking for ripeness. One, we're looking at the color. We want a nice light tan color without any green, and I can tell you that I do see a little streak of green right in here, so that part's not ideal. But another thing we're looking for is, does our fingernail leave a mark when we press down in the skin? Now that's not happening. When it's time to harvest, they'll harden, the skin of this will harden up, and that helps us as well. Now the last thing we're looking for, and this is one of the reasons why we're not harvesting at home yet, we're looking for that stem right here to start to die back itself and get a little bit brown. But again, this is kind of one of those harvests where we have to get these out of here just for the sake of timing, and so we're going to go ahead and harvest these as well. One thing I can tell you is that from what I'm seeing right here, the size of these are the butternut squash right here. The size of these did not disappoint at all. These are certainly as large as the ones that we have growing at our house. And this one actually made its way over to the other side of the fence. There's two right here that are even bigger. Now this one definitely has a little bit more of those striations, the green happening here. So I don't love that, but we're gonna check and see how the rest of them are doing. This one is looking very nice. Take a look at these beauties. Just excellent size. Again, this space was something that we didn't have at the beginning of the season. There's a couple more right down in there. And because we were able to add this for, you remember, $20 for this entire lot, we're able to add so much more. Oh look, this one's already become detached. Here you go, that's a great example. This one's detached and ready to go. But we've added so much more food just as a direct result of being able to grow in this space. All right, I've got quite a few more sizable ones in here that I need to harvest, and even a few that we grew in here just as a variety that we could carve and have fun with, just like these. So I'm gonna get these harvested out of here, and then I'm gonna show you our whole haul. And it does look like in the end, we're also gonna get a little melon out of here. There we go. Well, let's see how that one ripened up. Now this pile is just growing and growing. Well, it looks like these are going to be the last two that we add to our harvest pile here, but take a look at all of these squash. It's a great variety of winter squash. Quite frankly, this is an additional harvest to what we would grow at home, and so we're just grateful to have had this opportunity. And I think it's given us some ideas for what we might want to accomplish out here next season as we get started a little bit earlier than we did this season. Well, we hope you enjoyed this video where you saw what we've been doing here in our community garden space, and we hope you're looking forward to some of our other content in the very near future. Now, if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to give us a like, leave us a comment, remember to share and subscribe, and most importantly, remember, when you're with us, you are good to grow.